This is the space behind our house and it is a mess. But with so many other jobs to do around this place, the solution needs to be something that doesn't take much time because we don't have much of it, and something that doesn't take much skill because we don't have much of that either. And we might have found the solution.
Like many jobs we are tackling here, as soon as we start one, another pops up and demands to be done first. In this case, it was the stone wall on one side of the drive that was too low to hold back the gravel we want to use next to it. So here I am building it up with stones gathered from the stream that runs through our land, which is probably how it was built a few hundred years ago in the first place. The only real difference is back then, they knew what they were doing. I have never built a stone wall before, or any wall, so I watched a few YouTube videos on mixing cement and just went for it, and bizarrely it didn't collapse. Whether it will last another 300 years is debatable, but not something I'll worry about. The next issue is here. Under this is our water storage tank supplied by our well some distance away in one of our fields. It needs something that's going to stop the gravel from falling all over it, and the original cement surround was also falling apart. Having become a concrete and cement expert in the last couple of days, I decided to patch this up myself and make a decent surface, reinforced with some steel rebar, around the covers that I could then build a wooden frame onto that would hold back the gravel. The GoPro died before I constructed the wooden frame, but if you just imagine a master carpenter at work, it was nothing like that. But it did mean we could move forward with the actual project we wanted to do.
So the stonework is finished, the woodwork around the manhole cover is almost finished. We are going to wrap that up after we've done the driveway, which means we can get on to the fun part, transforming our driveway in a day. And what a day to do it. The process is simple. We whack it. Shouldn't need much of that because it's pretty hard already. We are then going to cover the area in sand, re-whack it to make that hard, and then we're going to cover it in some weed membrane, and finally we then get to put the grids down.
We've seen whacker plates used before and it always looked pretty simple, so the fact it took us a while to even get this thing going did not bode well. On the plus side, this drive doesn't need much whacking. It's had hardcore put down in the past, and so it's pretty solid already. The problem with it is that when it's wet it gets muddy and slippy, and walking on it to get wood from the log store is just unpleasant. Gravel that we keep clear of fallen leaves and other rubbish should be a huge improvement.
Step 1, done.
Step 2 was to cover the surface in sand to fill out any small imperfections so that we had a level surface to work with. If you've seen Jen's last attempt at driving the tractor on the driveway near the car, you might be wondering if it's sensible to let her do this. And the answer is yes, and I'm not just speaking as her husband. I have complete faith in her. She is a skilled and competent tractor pilot, and one small mistake should not be regarded as anything more than just that, so I have no concerns here. And I parked the car in a field miles away from danger. And so began the long task of moving the sand onto the drive and spreading it around with a lawn rake used for levelling garden lawns normally, but it worked perfectly here. Ideally, the sand would have been delivered closer to the area that we needed it, but the truck it came on simply craned it off, and that meant dumping it where the crane could reach to. And as we worked on this, we had a realisation that would become something of a running theme on this project, that we might not have ordered enough material. The sand was getting spread thin.
We thought we were going to run out of sand, but we have just about enough. Ideally, we would have put more down, but it has worked. It has levelled out the lumps and bumps, and that was all that was required. The next step is to whacker plate it again.
Or at least we thought this was the next step, but it took only 20 seconds to realise that it might just be a pointless step.
So this has been whacked and this area hasn't, and I don't think it's making that much difference.
It was, if anything, ruining the nice smooth surface that we created, so we stopped whacking and instead jumped ahead to laying down a weed membrane just as the sun decided to come out, which made us think it was all going very nicely, so obviously time for a problem.
Good news, the weed membrane went down really easy. The bad news is we've just received a phone call from the gravel company to say that it's getting delayed until tomorrow morning. However, if we get up bright and early and get on with it, we will still get this driveway transformed within 24 hours, which is one day.
It's time to put the grids down. We are going to start at this end because we need a nice straight edge here, because we're using these little ramp sections that click on to give us a nice transition between the two drives. And they all seem to just click together relatively straightforwardly, so it should be pretty easy until we get to cutting around things. There's an element of just kind of making this up as we go along, so we'll see how it goes.
So we put aside our frustration that the gravel wasn't going to arrive that day and cracked on with laying the grids, so at least we were ready for it when it did turn up.
Right, so the first row is down, and the good news is that my little handheld saw here cuts through them perfectly. So we're getting a nice, neat enough edge along there. Well, there's going to be a lot of cutting to do. And Jen just working on this way. We'll be done in no time. Because it was so hot yesterday, we actually stopped laying the grids down and we got up this morning to do them instead. Ridiculously early, but it is lovely and cool. In fact, it's almost chilly. And we've got about 2/3 done already. They're going down relatively straightforwardly. It's going to be a bit trickier at that end with lots of cutting to do, but I reckon another hour and a bit and we will be done. And then just waiting for the gravel to arrive.
And having completed the grids, I then fitted the ramp sections that allow a smooth transition between the existing tarmac area and the new gravel section. And I did that with some 10mm concrete anchor bolts that I've used for a number of projects here where I've had to drill into stonework. They work brilliantly. You simply drill a 10mm hole with an SDS drill if you're going into something very tough like stone, and then the anchor bolt bites into the hole you've drilled and pulls itself in rock solid. These ramps are going nowhere, and just as I completed it, the gravel truck rolled up.
Right, the gravel is here and the sun is coming out. Everything is going to plan.
The gravel company delivered these on pallets and had a pallet truck to put them right in front of the grids, so the temptation was to keep things simple and move it all by hand, which is how we did the first bag. And it was actually quite a fun job at first. We used a broom and a rake and just moved the gravel to fill the holes, and slowly the driveway transformed.
Okay, so the first couple of feet are done and it's going down really easily. The hope is we're going to have enough with our 3 bags. We're putting it down quite thinly at the moment so you can see the grid poking through in places, because we'd rather get complete coverage of everything rather than have it going down too thick and then run out at the other end. So for now it's just a case of plodding on.
And so as the last of the first bag went down, again we started to wonder if we'd ordered enough material. We were deliberately trying to spread it only as deep as the grids themselves rather than fully covering the grids, but even like that it was looking like we'd be short as we moved on to bag 2. And we did that second bag with the tractor because lugging it around in a wheelbarrow was getting hard work. And it was reassuring to see that the tractor could drive on the grids with no problem at all. We don't park a car here normally, but it's nice to know that we could do if we wanted to, and we do drive the tractor here to move logs to the wood store, so it's great to see the grids had no issue with a heavy vehicle on top of them. The surface certainly didn't move around like a regular gravel driveway would. That was the good news. The bad news was that as we used up the last of the 3 bags we bought, it was now obvious we'd underestimated how much we'd need.
Can you lay a gravel driveway in a day? Yes, you can, as long as you have enough gravel. We don't, so just had to order 2 more bags. Today, I guess we'll just be enjoying the sunshine.
So almost a driveway in a day. And at least the bit we'd done looked good, and to be honest, as the sun came out, I was quite glad there was no more to do, for 24 hours anyway.
2 more bags have arrived, so we can finally get this project finished. And the idea is to fill the grid just above the level of the grid so you can't see them anymore. At the moment, it's a tad low.
So having the top of the grid exposed like this is actually a look that you can go for, and if it was down to me I'd be fine with it, but Jen thought it was a bit industrial looking, so we added enough to now fully hide the grid. You have to be slightly careful doing this because if you add too much you get gravel that you can sink into underfoot and you then lose the benefits of the grids in the first place. The idea is to end up with deep gravel that doesn't feel like deep gravel, and I think we got that balance just right. And these 2 bags went down without any drama, including filling in the space around the water tank storage frame. And I should add we're making a neat little wooden cover for that frame to hide it under, so if it looks a bit half finished, it's because it is. But the driveway is fully finished, nearly.
Finished, and just in time, because we can hear the thunder coming. It is about to absolutely pour with rain, which is why the cockerel's going crazy in the background. He can sense the storm coming. It went relatively smoothly. The little stone wall that I built did not fall over, which is awesome. You can't see the grids anywhere. I say you can't see the grids. In a couple of spaces, if you look real hard, you can see the grid poking through, but that is the compromise you make for having an absolutely rock solid base. It doesn't feel like you're walking on deep gravel. You don't sink into it because there's nothing to sink into because the grid is there. No, very happy. The only minor fly in the ointment is that our plumber has just been in touch in a completely unrelated matter. He has to get some new pipe work from this cupboard under the driveway into our well water, so we've left this spot here for him to do that before we fill in with the last bit of gravel that we've left behind.
Apart from that, we are very happy. The driveway now looks nice, doesn't become a muddy mess when it rains, and is just far more usable than it ever was. And we like the grid system so much that we used some of what was left over to create a hard standing base for our drinking water containers that are going into our goat's paddock. Nothing ever goes quite as simply as you hope it will, but this project ended up matching the vision we had for it, despite a couple of hurdles to get there, and that is good enough for us.